Hello, mathletes. This is the Math Guy, and I have created this channel to help those like me that struggle to grasp math and its concepts. If you find my examples and videos helpful, please support my channel by clicking the subscribe button below and the bell icon to receive more notifications and tips when I upload more content. Okay, so let's get right to it. In this video, I'll be working through some graphing problems in hopes that I can help relieve some of the anxiety behind doing graphing problems. All right, so let's get this party started. Okay, so here are some very common problems that you usually get in books to resolve or figure out given graphing, or if you want to find solutions and so forth depending on what they ask you. So graph the equations below and provide three solutions. Well, three solutions means what 3 points would satisfy this equation. There's many points that would satisfy this equation. So, but we only really need to find two. You find two, you can draw a line. Your third point would just validate your line. So that's why they usually want three. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to figure out 1 point, and then we can figure out the next point if we figure out the slope, which we know, and then go from there. So to solve this for y, in order to do that, we're going to do minus x here, go minus x, and then minus x. So your y is going to be equal to minus x minus 5. So from here, we're gonna do our slope. We're gonna figure out what the slope is, and the slope would be basically -1 over 1, basically. So your slope is just gonna be -1 because it's what's in front of x. So let's figure out some points real fast. If the easiest point to always do is 0. So if we just set this to 0, we're gonna say y is equal to 0 minus 5. Well, y is equal to minus 5. So at 0, your y is minus 5. That's 1 point. Let's go ahead and do that point. So if we do that, we're going to be at 0, and then minus 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 5. Okay? And this slope is decreasing. So we're going to go, as we read, our slope has to go this way. Okay, this is decreasing. So we come to this point, we know our slope is -1. So we're going to go up and over 1. Okay. Now, right here is where sometimes a lot of people were confused and asked, well, why didn't you do this line instead? Why? I mean, if you're doing it that way, let's try something here. If you're starting at this point, why is it that you didn't write the point over here, up 1 and over this way? Well, the reason I didn't do that line is because that line would be increasing, and that would be incorrect. Our slope says our line is decreasing. Okay, this is a decreasing line because of the negative. So that's why the correct direction would be this way. So that's my rise over run. So there's my triangle there. So this line is the red line would not be a valid line. So we have 1 point here. 1 point is this one. Now we can get another point. This other point we have here is this one here, and that point is basically -1 and -4. Okay, and we can do yet, I guess, one here and over here. I guess this line should be going through there if we wanted to be correct. I guess my lines aren't that straight, but the correct point would be going through there, and that point would be 3, right? 1, -1, 2, and 3, and -2. So -2 and -3. Okay, well, how do we know for sure that these points are actually correct? We know because we can plug these points in and say, well, -1 plus -4 is equal to -5. And if you do that, you're going to find out that that is true. Okay, so these points, -1 and -4, are also valid points. If we go back now and try the other one, we can say, well, what about then -2 plus -3? Are those equal to -5? They sure are. So that means those 2 points are also valid. So your third point would be -2 and -3. So those are your points for your 3 solutions for that line. Let's do another example. Here we have another equation, and this equation is in standard form. It's a little different, but no bother. I think you always want to be in slope-intercept form. So what I would do is I would isolate my y, and we do that by moving stuff around. So let's subtract 3x here, minus 3x here. And we're going to rewrite this now as 2y is equal to minus 3x minus 6. Okay, the minus 6 still stays negative, so we're going to keep the negative there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide by -2, okay? And when we do that, these will go away, okay? And then divide this by -2, this will be equal to a positive 3 over 2x, and 6 divided by a -2, this becomes a positive 3. The negatives cancel. So that's your line. Okay, and your first point would just be adding a 0. So we're going to say, we put in 0 for x plus 3. So your first point would be x at 0, your y is at 3. There's 1 point. Okay, and whether it's from here at standard form or from here where it's already done for you, we know the slope is right here. Your slope, your m, is just m is equal to 3 over 2. Okay, when we have 1 point, so let's go to that point. That's our y-intercept. So at x is 0, we're going to go to 3. 1, 2, and 3. That's 1 point. Okay, this time I'm going to do all 3 points instead of trying to graph it at 2. So my third point isn't off. So I go back, and now we're gonna. It says go up 3 and then over 2. So from here I'm gonna go 1, 2, and it would be here 3, and then I gotta go over 2. 1, 2. So this is 1 point. This is another point. Now I'm gonna run out of graph, so I'm not gonna do another point up. I'm gonna go down and do another point. And again, you have to understand that this slope is positive, because there's no negative sign, so this is a positive slope. So this line has to go this way. So in order to do that, my point should be somewhere over here on this side somewhere. So my rise, instead of going up, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to go over 2. 1 and 2. So those are my 3 points. Okay, so and we're going to check them. We're going to mathematically check them. So my line is going to look something like that. If I can only get it right. So let's try that again, I guess. There we go. It's much better. Not the best line drawer. Okay. All right, so that's what, more or less what your lines should look like. And those are the points that we have. Let's go ahead and I guess just pick up these points. So this point here would be 1, 2. So my x is at 2. And my y is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's my second point. My third point is going to be actually on the x-axis. So that means my y is going to be 0. and my x is negative 1, 2. So negative 2. So those are all points that satisfy my equation. Okay, now let's see if that's accurate. Let's see if that's true. Okay, so for this one, if we plug these in, that means 3, my x is 0, minus 2 times 3 is equal to negative 6. Okay, well, we know this goes away, and negative 2 times this is minus 6 is equal to minus 6. So that's true. My next equation over here, we're going to have 3 times 2 minus 2 times 6 is equal to negative 6. Well, is that true? Let's find out. So 3 times 2, this is going to give me a 6. This is going to give me a minus 12. So 6, positive 6 minus 12, well, that's going to give you also negative 6. So that's also correct. Okay, so this works, that works. Okay, now if we come down here and we do this one, okay, we're going to have 3, and my x is negative 2, minus 2, my y is 0. Is that going to be equal to negative 6? Well, 3 and negative 2 is going to give me negative 6 minus 0. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 6. So, yep, this also checks out. So all three equations, or all three points are valid for this equation. Okay, so that's fine. That makes sense. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this one has a fraction in it. Okay, so we still have to move stuff around. What I would do is I would isolate my y. We're going to do that by moving the 1/3 from this side to the other side. We're going to do minus 1/3 x minus 1/3 x. It'll be, and I know sometimes the numbers can be a little intimidating, but it's just moving the numbers around. You want to do the opposite. So if it's addition, you subtract. If it's subtraction, then you add. So all we're doing is moving the 1/3 over to this side. So it's going to become negative now. So now your y is equal to minus 1/3 x minus 1. And there you have it. You have your slope. So your m is going to be negative 1/3. It's already there for you. Okay? So now we need points. And the easiest way to do that is start with 0. Okay, what do? Y is equal to 1/3 times 0 minus 1. You know, this goes away. Y is just going to be minus 1. So your intercept is going to be 0, negative 1. If we come over to the graph, at 0, we go negative 1. So it's right here, my first point. And then, in order to get your next point, we know this graph is going this way. It's descending. So we're going to go down 1 from here to here, and then over 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? And then we can go back the other way and just go up 1, and then over 3. 1, 2, and 3. So those are your 3 points. Those are the points that will make your line. Your line should look something like that and like that. Okay, so we have our points. So this point here, we have one point is 0, negative 1. We have another point at 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. So 3, negative 2, 3, and negative 2. We have a point. And then your next point would be at your x 1, 2, 3, and nothing for y. So these all should satisfy the equation. Okay, if we plug in this equation, we have 1/3 of x, right, plus minus 1 equal to minus 1. Well, this goes away, and minus 1 is equal to minus 1. So that point works. If we look at this point, we have 1/3 times 3 plus minus 2 is equal to minus 1. Okay, so this just becomes 1 plus negative 2 is equal to negative 1. Is that true? Absolutely. So negative 2 and a plus 1 becomes negative 1 equals to negative 1. Okay. Down here, let's try this one. If we add these points into the equation, we're going to do 1/3 times 3 again, okay, plus 0 for y is equal to, and this was negative 3. Sorry about that. That's why negative 3. So this is negative. It's not what wasn't working out, and this is minus 1. So negative 3 and 3, this is a minus 1. When you multiply these two numbers, you get a minus 1 plus 0 equals minus 1, and then minus 1 is equal to minus 1. So all 3 points are valid. This is an example of being given equations and being able to graph them the easiest way possible, I believe. And sometimes what they do is to validate your answer, they'll usually ask you for 3 points to make sure that your answer actually is correct. And there it is. There you have it. Okay, let's go on and do some more examples of other types of problems. Here we have 3x minus 4y is equal to minus 10. Okay, so same as before, let's plug in 0 for x. So if we do that, 3 times 0 minus 4y is equal to minus 10. So again, this goes away, and you have minus 4y is equal to minus 10. Okay, this one's not going to look as pretty because we're going to have a fraction, but it's still the same concept, and that's why I picked it. So we divide this by 4, divide this by 4, these go away, by negative 4, by the way. Okay, don't forget the negatives. Sometimes they will trip you up. So negative 4 divided by negative 4, this gives me a positive y, and then this is going to give me a positive 10 over 4. Okay. The reason I divided by a negative was because negative times negative is positive. That eliminates my negative from the y. You don't want your y's to be negative. Okay, so negative and negative become pluses, so it's plus 10 over 4. Okay, we can make it look a little nicer and say, well, y is equal to half of this is 5, and half of 4 is 2. So if we reduce it, your intercept is going to be 5 over 2. Okay, so it's basically 5 divided by 2, which is about 2.5, I'd say. That's what your y is going to look like. So at your x is 0, you're going to be at 5 over 2. And all that means is 5 divided by 2. That's all it means. So it's going to be 2.5, really. That's what it is, 2.5. All right, so that's that point. So it's 0. We're going to go up 2, 1, 2, and then meet me here in the middle. There you are. Okay, so now let's do one for the x-axis. So for the x-axis, the y is going to be 0. So we're now going to say 3x minus 4 times 0 is equal to minus 10. Well, this is going to go away, and then you're just left with 3x is equal to minus 10. We're going to divide by 3. This time there's no negative here on this side, so there's no need to divide by a negative. You just divide by 3, and then these go away. So your x, and then you divide this by 3. Your x is just going to be minus 10 over 3. This one you can't reduce. But if you take 10 and you divide it by 3, you're going to be at 3 point something or other. So it's just a little bit more than 3, because 3 and 3 is 9. So these aren't exact points, but that's the whole idea. I didn't want them to be exact, because sometimes you get stuff that isn't exact and isn't as pretty, but you still need to figure it out. So now we know that your x is going to be 10 over 3, and your y is going to be 0. So this is your y-intercept. This is your x-intercept. Okay, so in order to graph this one, to graph the second point, you're going to be looking at 0 and then you're going to go over, like I said, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just a little bit more than 3. I guess if you do something like here, that's close enough. I mean, if I'm grading a paper for a student and they, it doesn't, it just, you can't be exact, but you at least, this proves to me that they know that the point is in the right place. So let's take a look and see. So the line is going like that. Okay. Now, is this line really going down? Does this line make sense? There's a problem with this line. I just noticed. It wasn't intentional, but I just noticed. Can you spot it? Well, let's suppose you can't spot it. Okay, let's suppose we continue as if we think this line is correct. Okay, let's go do some checks and balances and see if we can find out what's wrong or what I did wrong. And this happens sometimes, by mistake, even to me, or even someone that's doing these problems. This often happens. We sometimes get careless and these mistakes happen. But this is why we do checks and balances. So let's check the slope. That's the first thing we want to do. So according to our formula, the slope is negative a over b. And our a in this instance is 3. And our b would be 4. Negative 4. And the a is negative. So negative 3 over negative 4 yields a positive 3 over 4. Okay. This slope is positive. So our line should be increasing. And as we've always said before, when we read from left to right. We read going this way, and this line is going this way. So that's the problem. That line is not correct. That line has to be fixed. Now, where did we go wrong? We did this point going this way. Is this point, are these points correct? Well, if you notice down here, I actually wrote minus 10 over 3, and I didn't put it over here. So that's why this point is no good. This point was actually done incorrectly. The correct point should be over here, 1, 2, and then 3, and then somewhat here just after 3. That's where your point should be. So it should be there. And now your line should look something like this. Okay, so now my line is increasing and the slope is correct. We went back and we checked it. And that's why sometimes you need little checks and balances to make sure that you are on track. It can happen to anyone, but if you know your slope and you know what your slope should look like, you can always go back and make changes to your equation or to your line. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next problem. So here we have 3x plus 2y is equal to 7. And it's no different than what we've done before. Let's set x and y's to 0 and solve to get our points. So let's start with the first one. It's going to be 3 times 0 plus 2y is equal to 7. Okay, so the 3 and the 0 will go away, and now you have 2y is equal to 7. Divide by 2, divide by 2, y is equal to 7 over 2. That is 1 point. And yes, I am going faster because I think we've done these a couple times now. So now we know that x-intercept, or a y-intercept, I'm sorry, is going to be 0 and 7 over 2. That is your y-intercept because there's no x. So now let's do the x-intercept. So we're going to say, okay, 3x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 7. So this goes away, and you have 3x is equal to 7. Let's divide by 3. Divide by 3. X is equal to 7 over 3. Okay, so then your other point is going to be at 7 over 3. Your x is your y, excuse me, is 0. So let's go ahead and plot these points. 7 over 2 is 3.5. 1, 2, and 3. Half of that is over here. And then you have 7 divided by 3. That's nothing more than 2 and some change. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then just a little bit, which is good enough. It doesn't need to be exact as long as we get the idea. Okay, so this line is going this way. And now, does this make sense? Does this line look the part? Let's take a look at our formula for slope, which is minus a over b. Well, if we apply that to this equation, we're going to say minus 3 over 2. And indeed, it's negative, so that means this line should be decreasing. Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up here. Next, we're going to do equations with just points. So, bye for now. Until next time. Okay, that'll do it for now. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button, as it will help me for future videos. If you have any questions or ideas for a video, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you. Until next time.